Peggy Fleming, the elegant teenager who won the gold and conquered the hearts of America. Now, a woman facing her greatest challenge.
And I took a big stretch and I looked in the mirror and I went, gosh, what is that boom?
A frightening discovery for the champion and her family.
I just really couldn't believe that my wife, Peggy, who has always been so healthy, had breast cancer.
Now, for the first time, she shares the intimate details of her battle with cancer and shows you the spirit that made her a winner. Lynn Sherr with Peggy Fleming, still a champion.
She grabbed the attention of the world when she was just a teenager, cutting a dazzling figure on the ice. Now former Olympic gold medalist Peggy Fleming is back in the spotlight. Like celebrities Linda McCartney, Carly Simon, and Diane Carroll, Peggy Fleming this year became a victim of breast cancer. Tonight, for the first time, she talks publicly about her experience with a disease that affects so many women and their families. For them, Peggy Fleming has words of hope. Lynn Sherr brings you her story and her message.
For 30 years, she has been America's queen of the ice, a graceful, elegant athlete who transformed a winter sport into a year-round national obsession. She glided into our hearts in 1968, when, as a 19-year-old world champion, she took to the ice at the Grenoble Olympics in a $20 dress hand-sewn by her mother. Peggy Fleming became the only American to win a gold medal.
Here she is, a tearful young lady from Colorado Springs, Peggy Fleming, a moment you've waited all your life for.
That's right. I'm so glad it's over, though.
In fact, it had just begun. Peggy quickly turned professional, becoming one of the world's first sports superstars with TV specials, tours, and endorsements. Her face decorated magazine covers and cereal boxes. Her presence was in demand at the White House. And when she married her teenage sweetheart and bore 2 sons, she seemed to have it all, until the beginning of this year.
After January, it felt like somebody took the rug and just went, and things kind of came to a screeching halt when I found out that I had breast cancer, and I just couldn't believe it.
Tonight we begin ABC's coverage of these pressure-packed championships with the ladies.
Peggy was in Philadelphia last January, commentating for ABC Sports on the U.S. Figure Skating Championships.
You know, I was feeling good, and then I took a big stretch, and I looked in the mirror, and I went, gosh, what is that bump? And, you know, just the shadow in the bathroom in the hotel, I thought, well, maybe I'm working out too much on the left side and not the right side. I thought it was a muscle.
Were you frightened?
No. I had had my mammogram 5 months earlier, and nothing showed up, so I had no indication that, you know, something like this would be happening to me.
Back home in Los Gatos, California, Peggy scheduled what she thought would be a routine medical exam. It turned into a day of doctors.
The needle biopsy came back questionable, so they said, well, we really need to go in and take it out and really be for sure.
When you heard that phrase, questionable, what went through your mind?
I thought, you know, it's not going to happen to me. I thought, you know, it's just an ordeal to go through. And, you know, I'm willing to do that. I'll do whatever I need to do. And let's go in and get it done. Because I've got places to, you know...
I'm busy.
...to go, people to see, and I've got a vacation coming up, and, you know, I wanted to be able to keep on schedule.
1968 Olympic champion Peggy Fleming.
Her schedule included this exhibition in Boston, where Peggy performed just days after undergoing a lumpectomy to remove the small mass from her left breast. She still didn't know whether the lump was cancerous or if it had spread, but her doctor had given her the go-ahead to skate.
I told him I was going to perform, so he added a few extra stitches to really sew it in there, because he knew I'd be performing. He said it was okay, just carry on your life. And so I did.
While she was on the ice, Peggy had no idea that her husband, Greg Jenkins, a dermatologist, had already gotten the biopsy results. The news was not good.
I was so shocked and stunned. I just really couldn't believe that my wife, Peggy, who I've known all these years and who has always been so healthy, had breast cancer.
You got the news first, but you didn't tell her right away.
That's right. She was skating at a TV appearance, being taped, and I knew as a physician I wasn't going to call her up and give her this bombshell news over the phone when she was back there.
So I went through the whole performance thinking I was fine. And so when I got home, he called me. You know, when he said that it was cancerous, it kind of took my breath away a little bit of like, oh my gosh, that's happening to me? Every word I was saying to him was like kind of strained. And he was crying on the phone. And I just thought, oh my God, you know, this is serious. I hung up that phone and I just took a huge deep breath, and I needed to be alone and to cry just a little bit.
Peggy had tubular carcinoma, a highly curable form of the disease when caught early, as hers was. But even with the tumor gone, she had a second surgery to remove some of her lymph nodes, so doctors could tell whether the cancer had spread. It had not. Her lymph nodes were clear. Ironically, that operation came almost 30 years to the day after she'd won her gold medal.
That was my athletic Olympics 30 years ago, but this is a life Olympics that I'm dealing with now.
And we have this word regarding a legend in the sport of figure skating. Peggy Fleming underwent breast cancer surgery.
The first reports of her condition were broadcast during the 1998 Olympic Games in Japan. A fitting reminder of her enduring reputation as a tough competitor, starting at a very young age. Do you remember your first victory when you were 10?
Oh, yes. It was easy. I was a very shy, a young girl, but when I started skating, I felt a real confidence, and people noticed me. That made me really feel good about myself. So that was my tool to find out what I was really all about.
Now Peggy was facing a new challenge: 6 weeks of radiation to kill any malignant cells that may have been left.
I thought it was going to be a piece of cake, actually. I thought radiation, all you do is just lay there on the table and they put the beams on you, and it takes a few minutes. And I would just go about my business. And that sort of was the case up until about 2 or 3 weeks into it.
Peggy's skin began to show the effects of the burning rays.
And I felt like it was a heat rash, very itchy, very red, and irritating. And it wasn't real pretty. And you just wanted to put the right cream on to make it go away and to stop itching.
Was it irritated by your working out?
I think that probably made it a little worse.
2, bring it up and hold. Hands.
But throughout her often debilitating treatments, she insisted on lifting weights.
Good, Peggy. 7.
And running several miles a day, even as the radiation sapped her energy.
I felt very tired. I had to have my nap every day. I thought I was like Superwoman, and I thought that I wouldn't react like everybody else, but I did. And I like to be involved in all the things that I'm involved with, but I want to enjoy each one of them now more and take them a little bit slower and enjoy the experience more.
This is how Superwoman now spends much of her time, curled up by the fire, learning how to understand and live with the cancer that has so altered her life. She says she's deeply grateful for the many letters of support sent to her by fans and tries to respond to as many as she can. You said before, you're a very private person. Why did you decide to go public with this?
Well, I feel like women out there that, are afraid to get a mammogram or are not doing their part in their health care. I mean, they're not taking charge of making sure they get those checkups regularly, that they exercise, they eat the right things. I want to make sure that women do get the message that you're your best doctor for yourself.
On the day we visited,
getting along pretty well, are you, at this point?
I am. I feel much better.
Peggy went in for her first scheduled checkup nearly 1 month after she'd finished radiation.
Are you back to jogging full time now?
Oh, yes, I am back.
Okay.
What's the prognosis?
Excellent. She's had a very good recovery, and she told me that she's about 85% of normal in terms of her energy. And for Peggy, that's a pretty high level of energy.
Do you feel as if you dodged a bullet?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I feel real lucky.
What advice do you have for other women facing the same thing?
Well, I think, let me collect myself a little bit.
That's okay.
Peggy Fleming does not like to cry in public. She told us that what's really kept her going are the personal things, being at home with her family, enjoying the support and the love of those who know her best.
So whenever you're feeling down, you just look up here and you go, life is pretty good.
Peggy told me she hasn't decided whether she'll skate again, but she clearly treasures the memories of her past. Remember the homemade costume that once clung to the supple body of the world's newest teenage sensation? Well, 30 years later, she's still got it. And guess what? It still fits.
And I felt very cute in this.
Today, as she puts her treatment behind her on the eve of her 50th birthday, feeling cute again, or rather, feeling sexy, is what's important to Peggy Fleming. That low-cut black lace leotard she wore for our interview, she admitted, was carefully chosen.
I just feel like I'd like to, you know, feel glamorous again, feel sexy again. I think my husband's waiting for that, too. But I think for women, when you've gone through something like this, I mean, you're still the same. You're still the same person after all of it's done with. You can still be glamorous. You can still feel like yourself again.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Peggy Fleming.
Oh, and Lynn, she sure is glamorous. She sure is herself. But you know, you and I were talking about this great conference that took place in Los Angeles with cancer specialists from all over this country, and how hopeful the news is that in the not too distant future with the new drugs, we may both cure and prevent breast cancer.
It is exciting, and it's very hopeful, as you say, but it's not here yet. And we have to remember that until that time comes, we still have to be careful and take Peggy's advice, self-examination. She found it herself. The mammogram 5 months earlier said she was clean. Very important thing to remember.
And it's something that I'm so glad she wanted to talk about and you talk about as well. Thank you, Lynn. This was extremely, as you say, important for us.
Thank you.